Hey everyone, I'm Sam, and as the channel name suggests, this is Rather Be Visin. So in a bit of a departure from my other videos, what I'm going to be doing today is building out visualization so you can see how I do it in real time and hopefully I don't mess up. So if you want to see more of this sort of thing, please do let me know in the comments, subscribe, like, all of that good stuff. Without further ado, let's get into what we're going to be looking at today. So today, we're going to have a look at Workout Wednesday. Now, Workout Wednesday is a fantastic resource in order to upskill in Tableau. As the name suggests, every Wednesday they ping out a new challenge that you can do in Tableau, and they range from being quite straightforward to being more visual to being really tricky things that you can do within Tableau. But it's a great way to pick up some skills that you can then go and apply to using Tableau in your day-to-day. So the website is workout-wednesday.com. Hop on there. You can see they've got a section here for if you're just starting out that are full of essential ones to do. So these ones focusing on sort of highlighting tables and table calculations, sheet swapping, all of that sort of thing. But the one I'm going to tackle now is 2023 week 31, which is can you find the most popular subcategory by sales per state? Let's have a look at what we need to do today. So you can see the visualization here, quite a simple one, just a bar chart with the subcategory. And when you hover over that, that's going to bring out the tooltip. And within that tooltip, there's going to be the states and the ones that are the highest sellers for that particular subcategory are going to be highlighted within the map. So what's really good with Workout Wednesday is they give you the requirements. They tell you sort of the size of the dashboard you need, how many sheets you're going to have, and might give you a few hints. So if we have a look at this, we can see that dashboard size is going to be 600 by 600. We can worry about that later. We're going to do it in 2 sheets, and we're going to find the most popular subcategory by sales per state. And they've got a note here, a nested LOD is needed. So we know we're going to have to use a nested level of detail calculation. Finally, create a Visin tooltip to show which states that subcategory is most popular in. And if we scroll down, we can see the actual interactive visualization here. And you can see if I hover over chairs, I can see 9 states are the highest sellers for chairs, or subcategory of chairs is their highest seller. And then it highlights them on the map. So without further ado, let's get into the build. So I'm going to hop over to Tableau. Nice little Star Wars transition there, and here we have a nice blank workbook. I've already connected to the sample data set, which is the US Superstore. No EU Superstore this time, but maybe next time. And now we can get into the build of our visualization. Okay, so we know that we need to have 2 sheets. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that I name my sheets as to what each element is going to be. So the first one I'm going to call bars. Next one I'm going to call map, but I'll come back to that one later. Now, we know we want to see which is the particular state's top subcategory. And we know that we need to use a nested level of detail calculation in order to get that. So first thing I'm going to do is to create a calculated field. And I'm going to call this max sales per state and sub. You might have a different naming convention. I try and do this as much as I can. So I put a little C if it's a calculated field, and then I can find it easy in my data pane. So we know we need to use a level of detail. We're going to use a fixed level of detail calculation for this. So first thing, we need to find the sum of sales for each category or subcategory and state. So I'm going to start this off with fixed. I'm going to fix it at my state province level, and I'm also going to fix it at my subcategory level. And then going to put my colon, and I'm going to sum sales. And I'm going to close that off, and there's my level of detail calculation. So what this is doing is saying for each state and subcategory combination, sum the sales. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap this in another level of detail calculation in order to get what is the biggest number by state. And then what we can do a little bit later on with the calculation is say, find me the biggest number and what subcategory is that. So I've got my first level of detail. I'm going to come back to the start and I'm going to do another fixed, but this time I'm just doing it at the state province level. and then I'm going to say max, and then I'm going to wrap my level of detail calculation in that max. So now what this is going to do is it's going to, for each state and province, it's going to bring me back the biggest number for that state province, and then we can do an equals calculation to find out what subcategory that actually is. So click OK on that, and we can see if I bring that in and I bring in my state and province, you can see for each state we've got the biggest number in terms of sales. So now in order to find out what subcategory that actually is, what we can do, if I get rid of that, is we're going to create another calculated field, and this one we're going to call top subcat. And here we're going to do if, and we're going to do another level of detail calculation. So we're going to fix this on the state and province and the subcategory. And then we're going to sum sales. So again, we're doing that first calculation that we did as part of that nested LOD. And we're going to say if that equals my calculated field of my max sales per state, then I want to bring back, help if I can find my brackets, then I want to bring back subcategory end. If I just make this a little bit easier to see, so what we're saying here is if my fixed calculation for state and subcategory for sales is the same as my max sales per state and subcategory, then I want you to bring back the subcategory, and then we're ending it. So if we click OK on that, let's have a look at what that looks like. So here we've got all of our subcategories, and then we could bring in our state. We can do a count distinct, and then we've got the start of our bar chart here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to filter out any null values. So if that statement came back as false, then it's going to give me a null value because I didn't tell Tableau to put anything in if that wasn't true. So I'm going to say null, get rid of that in my filters, and now we've got our distinct count of state and provinces that have that particular subcategory as their top seller. So we can see that 13 states have got phones as their top seller. Now we're going to create a parameter, and this is going to allow us to highlight a particular subcategory when we get on to doing our map. So the name I'm going to put in for this is just P highlight, so that's what I'm going to be using it for. I'm going to change the data type to string, and I'm going to allow all values. Current value I'm going to put as phones, just so we can make sure that it's working as expected. Click OK, and then I'm going to create calculated field. So this is going to be for my highlighter, so I'm going to call it subcat highlight. And in here, I'm just going to do a nice simple Boolean. Is the parameter the same as my top subcategory? So that's going to give me a true or false, and I can use that within my map. So let's get into building that map now. So as always, to create a map, I'm just going to double click on country region here. That's then going to give me the longitude and latitude up in my columns and rows. And I'm going to switch this to be map. And there we've got the Canada and US map filled in. And we want to go down a few levels. We want to come down to the state level. So I'm just going to click on the pluses here. So now we've got our state and province. Then I'm going to bring in my top subcategory. I'm going to drop that onto detail. And then I'm also going to bring in my subcat highlight and drop that onto color. So now you can see that it's highlighting the nulls, it's highlighting the trues, and it's highlighting the false. So again, I'm just going to filter this one. I'm going to take out null. And so now we've just got true and false values. So to tidy up this map a bit, let's change the colors. So I'm going to change my false to be a gray, and I'm going to change my true to be, what should we go for? Let's go for that orange. There we go. Then I'm going to right click on the map canvas here, I'm going to choose background layers, and then over at the side here, I'm going to untick everything so we don't have any background layers. So we just have the shape of the map. So now back over to my bars. Let's tidy this up a bit. I'm going to come to the color. I'm going to change that also to orange, so we've got a bit of consistency between the two. Let's get rid of my axes. I'm going to change this to be entire view. I'm then going to hold control. I'm going to bring that count D onto label so we can see how many states are in top sellers of each category. I'm then going to select format, and I'm going to get rid of those grid lines. There we go. So as we saw in the finished visualization, we were pulling through the map into the tooltip. So you weren't having to switch between sheets. You were able to hover over the bars and see the map. So let's do that now. I'm going to come into tooltip, and I'll tidy this up in a minute. But the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to enter a couple of times. I'm then going to come to insert, going to go to sheets and stick my map in there. At the moment, the max width is 300, max height is 300. I'm just going to change this to being 400 for both. And then for my filter, I'm going to change this to be my highlight parameter. So p.highlight. And the reason we're doing that is because you're allowing all values, it means that the whole map will be shown. If we were just to leave that as all fields, when we hovered over a bar, it would just filter down to showing the particular states that that value was true for. So if I click OK on that, if I hover over, you can now see that we've got the whole map in there, and we've got the ones that sold phones as highlighted. However, when we hover over tables, you can see the visualization doesn't change. And that's because that parameter is not changing. So if you remember, we set that to be phones, so it's always going to be set to phones. We need to create that parameter action to change it, but we'll do that when we get to the dashboard. Last thing I'm going to do is just tidy up my tooltip. So I don't want what we've got at the moment, this c.top subcat, doesn't look very pretty. So I'm going to take that out. I'm going to change the size of this to be a bit bigger because it's going to be my header. And I can change this to be a bit more wordy. So I can say that number. So number states had, and then I can put in the top subcat as their top selling subcategory. And then I might century align it. So there we go. So chairs, 9 states had chairs. Obviously the map still hasn't sorted itself out, but we're going to do that in just a second. So let's hop into a new dashboard, and let's call this Workout Wednesday 2023. Now we know we want this to be 600 by 600. And we can show the dashboard title, and we can tidy that up in a minute. And then I'm going to bring in my bars sheet, drop that right in the middle. And now what we're going to do is we're kind of come up to dashboard. We're going to go to actions, and we're going to add in that parameter action. So add action, change parameter, call this subcat select. And our source sheet is going to be bars. We're going to run this on hover. So whenever we hover over a bar, this action is going to run. It's going to update that parameter, and that means that our map will update. Our target parameter is going to be our P highlight, and our source field is going to be top subcat. And if we click OK on that and OK again, now when we hover over phones, we can see we've got the 13 states highlighted. And when we hover over binders, we can see we've now got just those 8 highlighted. So everything's working as we want it to. Now it's time to just tidy up this visualization a bit. So for our title, we can get rid of that, and we can call this Workout Wednesday 2023, week 31. Can you show the states with the top sales subcategory? Not the nicest title, pretty wordy. We might want to drop the size of that down a bit. And we can get rid of the title here. We don't want it to say bars, but what we can have it to say is number of states with subcategory as their top seller. And then underneath, we might want to change this to orange and bold and maybe just a little bit smaller and say hover to see map. There we go. We might want to bold our title, although it is quite wordy. We can bold that. And then finally, I'm just going to bring in a text box to the bottom. And I'm going to say Workout Wednesday 2023. Viz by Sam Pollard at Visim. Let's centrally align that. And then just bring that down a bit. And then finally, I'm just going to put a bit of padding on this. So I'm going to change my outer padding to 10, just to bring that in a little bit. And there we have it. There is the Workout Wednesday done. So we've now got a pretty cool bar chart showing us how many states have that particular subcategory as their top seller. And then we're able to hover over it and see exactly what states they are, as long as your geography is a bit better than mine. So that's how you tackle it. So using those nested LODs, using some parameters and using parameter actions. Quite a straightforward one, thankfully. I didn't trip up too much. But hopefully you enjoyed that. If you do, as I say, please do let me know in the comments below. I'll try and do one of these every week for the Workout Wednesday, and maybe even revisit some of the previous ones as well. But that's me. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.